Hi, welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And today I want to talk about preparing for a neurologist appointment. And the reason why is because I have one tomorrow. So what better time to talk about it? Before I do, I wanted to let you all know about the poll that we had the other day about ponytails. If you missed it, sorry about your luck, but the winner is that it sucks to take a ponytail out of your hair. I disagree. I disagree completely. I did forget to put the poll up until like midday the following day. So I didn't have a full set of votes, but I had enough to have a winner. So yeah, I'm just gonna we're gonna have to agree to disagree on that one. Okay, so I want to talk about preparing for my neurologist appointment, and here is why. Because I think it is really critical to do the work ahead of time, ahead of your appointments when you're in recovery, to make sure that you're getting the most out of your appointment. It takes months to get into an appointment, especially something like headache specialist neurologist appointment. Like I've been waiting for this moment for months. So I'm really excited. And I think that anticipation actually starts to make me nervous. Nerves I've learned are good over the years as long as I respond to them. I'm nervous because I want to be prepared. Typically, before when I was drinking, before my stroke, I would have just let myself be nervous and not take action on that. So I think this can really be applied to everything in our lives. When we get nervous, it's a sign that we need to take some sort of action. So that's what I'm going to do. My appointment is at 11:15. So, and it's getting late tonight, but I really do have all of my paperwork, and all of this stuff already written down. I just have to gather it together. So, I'm sharing my preparation process for this appointment, and preparing thoroughly can significantly impact if you get the most out of your conversations with your doctor. I was in a vestibular support group today, and there was another individual, at least one, who was preparing for an appointment as well. I think theirs was with a neurologist. But I think that this is just a really good topic, and it's important to have a list, like a go-to list of what it is that I need to bring with me. And side note, today marks the 3-year anniversary of my stroke. So I sent a little chat message to my family, like to my 2 kids and my husband, who is down in the basement. But I was like, do I celebrate? I feel like no. But then I'm like, but I don't know. I think it's important to acknowledge that. And it's kind of weird. So, I thought it was my dog's birthday today. Isn't that weird? I mean, isn't that just the way I had a stroke? So dog's birthday, stroke anniversary, it's all the same after you've had a stroke. Okay, seriously. So I'm going to talk about how I get organized, what information to gather, and what questions to ask to ensure that you leave the appointment with a solid plan. Because the goal just like when I was working, because recovery is my full-time job now. And when I was working and I had nonstop meetings, and you know how annoying it is to be going to all these meetings when you have too much to do in an 8-hour day, and you're going to all these meetings and you go and there's nothing comes out of it, you know? Having action items at the end of a meeting are the whole point of having a meeting. So, same thing. My goal leaving there is to have a 3 to 6 month plan when I leave the appointment tomorrow. So, I want to make sure I provide her with as much information as possible. First, before I give you this list of the stuff that I'm going to go prepared with, I wanted to give you a brief, history on what my experiences have been with neurologists since my stroke 3 years ago in 2021. So, when I had my stroke, June 4th, 2021, I was in the hospital for 5 days before a neurologist came to my room. That's right. And it's just kind of disgusting, honestly. Like, I couldn't leave the hospital until a neurologist came to look at me. The stroke, that is the definition of a stroke, is that it impacts your brain. So the specialist that I needed the most never came to see me. Okay. That was my first experience with a neurologist. That same neurologist who finally came to see me, charming gentleman. I mean, he was so lovely. But lovely doesn't get me the care that I need, right? I mean, he was so sweet, but that's not what I needed. I needed somebody who made me feel like my life was in his hands, because my life felt like it was in everybody's hands at that point, right? So after he came to see me in the hospital, I got to make a follow-up appointment with him. So I don't remember whether the appointment was made when I saw him in the hospital, doubtful, but or if I called. But what I can tell you briefly is that the receptionist at the front desk of the neurologist office was terrible. She was rude, and she didn't have the time to talk to me, and really blew me off as far as getting me what I needed to do was get my records straight, and I needed to make an appointment, and that kind of thing. And it was just, it was not good customer service, we'll say. So I am typically, it's probably important to say that I am not a complainer when it comes to doctors. Like, I'm not the kind of person that goes to a restaurant and asks for all this customized stuff with my food that I order. If that gives you a good idea of how much I just kind of go with the flow. I'm not like, I'd like a chicken sandwich, but can you pick off all the sesame seeds off of my bread and then make sure there's no butter on my broccoli? And that's not me. So I use that example because when I'm calling a doctor's office, like, I'm almost going to let you treat me like a doormat before I say something. But over the past 3 years, I have learned that I can't do that. Like, this is my life. I only get one body. And to have the patience for somebody to treat me like that is, it's just, it's ridiculous. It's unheard of to allow that. So anyway, I I immediately called a different neurologist and made an appointment. Okay. So 3 months in, so it took me 3 months to try to work something out with that first neurologist. That never happened. So 3 months in, I get an appointment with a new neurologist. So I go in there. I had read reviews about this neurologist and everything, and I went in, I told my story. The reviews on the web said that this neurologist did not have a good bedside manner. So I saw that as a nice challenge. So I was like, I'm going to make this guy smile. So I did. I made him smile, but I still, making him smile did not give me the care that I needed. So at first I thought things were okay. Like he put my MRI X-ray up on the TV. And this was, I had difficulty looking at digital screens, and all of my symptoms that I'm experiencing now, the visual impairment, that was happening back then. It was the same as it is now. The same, like nothing's changed. Um, and he put it up on the screen, but I didn't know what was wrong with me, so I just kind of was still going with the flow. I told him that I told him what I was feeling and stuff, but we just really didn't know what any of it meant. But what he did tell me was I was lucky to be standing there with what he saw in my brain. I was lucky to be standing there and just talking to him. I had a little bit of aphasia. I barely have any now. I would say I don't really have it. I have a language deficit. I don't know if it's equal to aphasia, but mine's more like there's a disconnect. There's a short up in my brain. Than what it sounds like when I'm talking. It's more like my thinker is broken more so than my speaker is broken. So he told me I was lucky to be standing there, and that validated, I think, the trauma that I had been experiencing over the previous 3 months, like that I had gone through the stroke. The neurologist didn't think that it was important enough to see me in the hospital after 5 days. And then going into the appointment with the neurologist, I was able to go see the first one once. And I also had some wires hooked to my head and did some kind of test or something, but it turned out to not show anything. So this second one, like, validated, I guess, made me feel like I needed to be there. The first one made me feel like I didn't need to be there. So I told this second neurologist that I had a headache, and I've had a headache ever since I had the stroke. That's what I told him. It had been 3 months. And he said, okay, well, let's just see how this pans out. We want to wait a year. He wanted me to wait a year before we treat the headache. I I don't know. I don't know why. I just said yes, but I'm just like, I mean, he's a neurologist, right? He should know what to do. So I went back after like 3 months later or something, and I still had the headache, still the same. And he's like, okay. I also shared with him some of my visual symptoms, like that I couldn't, like looking at blinds on a window made me like nauseous and dizzy. And he kind of, it never occurred to him that I might have a vestibular disorder. And today I still don't know if I have a vestibular disorder. It's just the closest I've gotten to some sort of self-diagnosis. So fast forward, I go in there after a year, so June 4th of 2022. I go in and see neurologist number 2. And he says, "Oh, okay, you still have the headache. Let's try this medication." So I take it. I go back in a month. Nothing. It didn't help anything. So he's like, he says, quote unquote, "Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. We're going to increase it and try it again." So he increased the medication. It didn't do anything. I stopped seeing him. Okay. That is not the right thing to do. Okay. I realize that. But I was just so frustrated because that was neurologist number 2. I waited an entire year for him to give me a medication and it didn't work. And then he upped it and it still didn't work. So I'd had it. Well, what I didn't know at the time was that things aren't going to get better. Okay. I didn't realize that things were going to get worse if I didn't do something major, like change something major in my life. And I only was able to understand that when it happened, when I could no longer work. So I went back to the neurologist. I guess it was a year after that I went back. And instead of seeing that guy, because it's impossible to get in, I saw his assistant, what is it called? Nurse practitioner. I saw his nurse practitioner, which I found out like a few months ago that I think that this gal is his wife. That's what I hear, which kind of is a little bit of a red flag for me. Anyway, I didn't realize that over the past year. So I have been seeing her, and she had been, I explained to her my history. She gave me some new medication. It didn't work. I came back in a month. So that's 2 medications, and that's what's required in order for somebody to be prescribed with Emgality. So she finally prescribed Emgality, which is what I take now. And that is an injection in my stomach. I do it in my stomach once a month. And after about 2 weeks, I started to feel, I think, less sharp pains. I was at the point where I couldn't even look up. My head hurt so bad. It was like sharp stabbing pains in my head, and they were constant unless I had my eyes closed. So the Emgality has taken a few months to actually make the sharp pains go away entirely. But they are. I would say intermittently, I may have a handful of sharp pains in a month, which is just a gigantic bit of progress. So what has happened after that is it sounds like her focus was pain management. Her focus was to give me something to make me feel better, not to figure out what's wrong with me, what's causing these symptoms. And I had a lot of symptoms. I had brain fog. I had a language deficit. I had memory problems. I was leaving things on in the house. I was unable to multitask. I couldn't watch movement. I still can't watch movement. But and then the migraines was like the other thing, you know, just a list of stuff. Um, and she didn't seem to be concerned about any of the other things. It was almost like she was checking the boxes off for all the things other than the migraine. The migraine, I got the medication, but she wasn't seeking answers. She wasn't recommending next steps. What would happen is I would go to, she would prescribe me with a medication, and then I would go home, spend the next month researching. And I was using voiceover, mind you, because my head was and my eyes were so bad. So I'm researching by audio only. And finally, I ran across a neuropsychiatrist can diagnose my cognitive disorder. So I asked her, I think I need to see a neuropsychiatrist. So she wrote me a script to go see one. I read an article about vision challenges with vestibular disorders. I said, I think I need to see a neurotologist. So she wrote me a script to see one. Like, she was not engaged in what I needed to do. I was just telling her what I thought. And I don't know, I was a marketing director. Um, sh- I feel like these doctors need to be recommending our plan. So on the side, I was seeing my primary care physician who actually had been recommending um, a can't think of the word right now, but concussion clinic. Um, the problem is that I know that a concussion is very similar to a stroke in that you have damaged your brain, but it's not a stroke. It is a concussion. And I feel strongly that I need to go to a specialist for stroke. I didn't want to go to a concussion clinic. Um, I also had talked to this neurologist we're going to call her neurologist number 3 because it's the wife now. And I had talked to her about these vision issues. And so I said, I hear that maybe I should go see an ophthalmologist. So she wrote me a script to see an ophthalmologist who ended up telling me that I needed vision therapy and had a totally separate diagnosis for me, which not the first time, but the second time I went to go see an optometrist, same thing. I told her maybe I should see an optometrist. So she wrote me a script for that. And when I came back to this neurologist number 3 and told her what my diagnosis was from that optometrist, she laughed and said, that's the latest thing that optometrists are prescribing. And it was that I had issues with convergence and tracking, and I needed vision therapy. And she said, that's what they all say right now. Um, so I don't know. Insurance doesn't pay for vision therapy. I'm getting off track, but I wanted to really give you the details of the frustrations I've had with not having a neurologist guide my medical journey, you know? Um, so so after I I got the script to see a neurologist. That was a nightmare. I ended up at an otolaryngologist after working on that for a month. I got in with a otolaryngologist, which is another name for an ENT, ear, nose, and throat. And so when I went into this lady, she said, and she focuses on vestibular balance. That's what an otolaryngologist can help you with. So she asked me who my neurologist was, and I told her about neurologist number 2 and 3 because they're both at the same office. And she went and got a piece of paper and wrote down 3 different neurologists that she recommended that I go to, their headache specialists. And I said that I was pretty happy with my current neurologist, even though I had been frustrated. At least I was making progress that I'm pushing for. But she pretty much ignored that I said that I was okay with the one I had. And she was like, if you want a second opinion, you can just just take this anyway. So that was kind of a red flag that seeing that the neurologist was 2 buildings down from her, the ENT, she, I'm sure, knows who they are. And so that's why I'm seeing this new neurologist. And so the ENT who has been guiding me towards vestibular therapy is is anticipating what this new headache specialist neurologist is going to say with me. So that's why I'm going. And I wanted to share that with you because I think the biggest takeaway from me sharing this with you is that if you are dealing with frustrations with doctors and with your treatment plan and having a freaking plan and nobody's giving you answers, and you're not alone. You're not alone. And I'm hoping that sharing my experience with you is helpful in some way. And if you ever have a question about anything specific that I've shared here, you can definitely email me at rachel@recoverydailypodcast.com. Or you can fill out the form on my website at recoverydailypodcast.com. And we can chat. I'd be happy to chat with you about my experience. Okay, so now I want to talk to you about how I'm preparing for tomorrow's neurology appointment. So I have a list of stuff that I'm going to be prepared with to walk in there. So I'm just going to share those with you. So I'm going to walk in with a timeline of all of the doctors that I've seen, the order that I've seen them, all the tests that I have taken, and the MRIs that I've had. So I've had 3 MRIs over the course of the last 3 years, and I've had lots of wires hooked to my head as well. So all of these that are related to my condition, my vision tests, my hearing tests, all of that. So this timeline will help my neurologist understand the progression of my symptoms and the interventions that I've tried, because my symptoms have not stayed the same over the past 3 years, even though I just said earlier they haven't changed. The thing with my vision and not being able to focus on things, like I'm looking at my computer right now, but it is not clear. And it's very difficult to explain what it looks like to me, but it takes a lot of work for me to focus in on anything in particular. And the more I talk about it, the more my head starts hurting. So I kind of soften my gaze so it's a little more blurry because it just helps me to, I don't know, it helps my brain or my whatever, something in there relax a little bit. So next I'm going to provide a list of all of these symptoms and what I've experienced, how they've changed over time, what the duration was that I had those sharp pains. I just had a sharp pain during this episode when I was just talking about the words on the screen. So I'm going to talk about that kind of stuff, like what are the patterns and triggers that I've noticed. And this is going to help the neurologist to identify potential correlations and hopefully help with my diagnosis. So I'm going to provide a list of all of the diagnosis that I've been given over time, or lack thereof, really. There's been a lot of, nope, it's not that, nope, it's not that, it's not that. I need to provide all of that as well. So compiling all of this information will allow the neurologist to have like a holistic view of my medical history over the past 3 years. Then I need to also provide all the treatments. So treatments are going to include the medications that I've tried. So when I first had my stroke, when you have a stroke, they give you a set cocktail of medications for high cholesterol, something else and something else. Oh, blood thinner. Anyway, I don't have high cholesterol, but they give it to you anyway. They give you the medication anyway. So I had to work to get off of the high cholesterol medication. Like I had to talk to my doctor. We had to take a blood test because I didn't want to take medication that I didn't need to take. I've always been very proud of my cholesterol. So I don't want to take medication if I don't need it. And I'm not opposed to medications. I'm a huge fan of medications, actually, but I don't want to take something that I don't need to take. I also want to include, as far as treatments, all the therapies I've done. I've done 2 different vision therapies and vestibular therapy. And then I also need to provide a list of all of my lifestyle changes. So, how much I used to exercise, how much I exercise now. There's a huge difference between what I used to do and what I do post-stroke. And I want to talk about my eating. So I'm vegan now. I just went vegan in December of 2023, and I've lost, let's see, I've lost about 20 pounds over the past 12 months. Yeah, so we're at 1 year. So let's see. When did I leave my job? I left my job. It's all running together now. Yeah, in June. Yeah, it was a year, so 12 months. So I've lost 20 pounds, and I think it's important for me to acknowledge to the doctor that I lost 20 pounds before I went vegan, because people like to look at me now and say, that's because you're vegan. You need to not be vegan. And it's not because I'm vegan. Actually, the reason why I decided to be vegan is and have a plant-based diet is because I wasn't eating a lot and what I was eating wasn't healthy. So I decided if I'm gonna eat uh, less, I need to make sure that I eat healthy and make sure that I pay attention to my proteins and my fats and all that stuff because when I'm eating a plant-based diet, I need to pay attention to that. So documenting what has worked for me with medications, therapies, and lifestyle changes and what didn't work. And that will save time so that we don't have to do experimentation again with this doctor and prevent repeating ineffective treatments. So I want to be clear about what I hope to achieve from this appointment with her. I'm aiming for, if possible, and I'm not holding my breath, but an accurate diagnosis. In particularly, I have 3 MRIs, and there is some interesting information in those MRIs. In particularly the infarcts in my cerebellum, the mini strokes in my cerebellum, and how they were dismissed by um, neurologist number 3 and neurologist number 2, actually. So I really want to have this neurologist acknowledge whether those could be causing some of my symptoms. And if she dismisses it also, then, I don't know. I either just accept it that those are just there, that I have dead brain cells in my cerebellum and they have no impact on my life at all, which I just can't believe that. Or I see another one. But I think that this is going to be my last try with the neurologist. So I also want an accurate diagnosis if possible. I know that's a stretch. Maybe we can check off a couple more boxes of what I don't have going on. A treatment plan. I want to have a 3 to 6 month treatment plan. And I want to know if I need further tests or more specialists or consultations. I do have a vestibular test coming up July 11th. So just a week, next week. And it's the ENT isn't sure if I should take that because she's afraid of what it's going to do to my symptoms. And quite honestly, I'm afraid of what it's going to do to my symptoms because I hear that you put something on your head and things move and they take pictures of your eyes, which is just going to make me vomit. If that happens, like it'll be terrible. It'll be absolutely terrible. So I'm thinking that maybe that's not going to happen. So I want to make sure I come with a list of questions and I want to cover all of my concerns during the appointment. So some examples of some questions that might be helpful to someone listening are what could be causing these particular symptoms? What tests do you recommend? What are some possible treatment options? What are some lifestyle changes that can help me manage my symptoms? How often should I follow up with you? How long do you think that here's my question, and these are the ones that I think are more customized for me. How long do you think this continued treatment and diagnosis and runaround needs to happen in my life. Like, I've been doing this for 3 years. How long do I have to keep doing this before I can start settling into some sort of make some life decisions, you know? Um, and then I want to ask about the MRIs, and I want to ask about, do you think vestibular is a possibility, or is this a direction that I've just made up and my other neurologist hasn't talked me out of it? You know, I feel so lost when I start putting together these questions that I have. So finally, I want to leave the appointment with this clear plan. I want to list additional tests or specialist referrals. I want to schedule regular check-ins if I need to monitor my progress. I'm pretty sure she's going to prescribe a medication, but I don't know. If history tells me anything, I'm going to get prescribed another medication, which is fine if, you know, if she thinks that this is going to do something for my underlying headache slash dizziness thing going on. And then what kind of modifications should I make to my current treatment plan? Should I continue to go to this vestibular therapist or not? So preparing for a neurologist appointment in particular, I mean, this really applies to any doctor that you've been waiting and anticipating to go to. It involves gathering detailed medical information, setting clear goals, and asking the right questions. Like, please don't just make the appointment and show up with your insurance card. Like, there's so much more that we need to do um, to advocate for our own well-being. And so I'm hoping that by sharing my preparation process with you, that I can help you get organized when you are going to see a doctor, and especially feel more confident that you're not the only one who gets discouraged, that you're not the only one who has gone to doctor after doctor after doctor with no diagnosis. And yeah, I mean, I know what it feels like. And right now, as I'm closing up this episode today, like, I'm super, super dizzy. And I don't, it's times like this that I feel like throwing my hands up and just saying, can you all just please tell me, Rachel, this is the way that it's going to be. You know, let's just stop all of this nonsense and just let you live, you know, let you relax. Let's stop going to all of this therapy. Um, I know that my vestibular therapist has helped a lot over the past few months. It's helped me to be able to walk around the block, and it's helped me to be able to look up and grab the coffee pod off of the wall, which I wasn't able to do before. But it's a lot to be able to do these simple things. It's a lot of work. And you can tell in my voice that I'm tired. And I think I mentioned that the other day, that somebody said to me, actually, sometimes I just get tired of trying to heal, you know? Um, so I'm going to go get some rest, and I will let you guys know tomorrow how my neurologist appointment went. And my daughter is coming in for the day tomorrow. So we'll have lots to talk about tomorrow. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Please hit subscribe. That helps me out. And I'll talk to you tomorrow.